Hello and welcome to Celtic World, the YouTube channel and podcast made by Celtic fans all over the world, for Celtic fans all over this great big world. And where do we have represented today? Well, I'm in Malaysia. We have a representative in Australia and another in Thailand. And just before the show, we're talking about how it is stinking hot in all of these places. So forgive us if we're glistening a bit in the early evening heat. Stephen in Australia, what up?
Hey Gav, hey Eddie, hello everyone in the comments. Yeah, it's pretty hot and humid here. I also feel as if my temperature's still a bit high after the game, which was on at 1 o'clock in the morning here. So I haven't really slept much. Sorry, it started at 11, but it finished about 1. And of course I couldn't get to sleep after that, so I haven't had much sleep. So if I look a bit sleepy, I'll start to doze off during the show. That'll be why. But yeah, looking forward to getting in about the big issues that come out of the game.
And Eddie in Bangkok, how's it going, Eddie?
Yep, hail from a very hot and sunny Thailand. My only problem might be today my voice after the shouting match I had with the TV last night. I think I upset at least one of the neighbours at one point, but I'm sure we'll get into that, and I'll point out exactly what that point was during the talk about the game.
Okay, righty-ho. Well, hello to everyone in
What
the
about
chat
you?
there.
What about you, Gav? How are you? You're always asking us. How are you doing?
No one ever
Very
asks.
Very true.
Do you
That's
really
very
to think that you
I really
care,
want to
Stephen,
know. We really want to know.
I'm touched. I'm all right. I just get in from under 13s training, and I just came back, jumped in the shower, and then onto this. So it was absolutely roasting, and loads of little brats not doing what I tell them, you know. And I try and be the sort of the carrot rather than the stick. You know, there's like this one fella who just puts his head down and runs with the ball, and I'm telling him, if you want to be a better footballer, you've got to pass the ball. You'd be twice as good a player if you pass the ball occasionally. And then the coach from last year comes in, and I said to him, you know, I can't get him to look up and pass the ball. He's a greedy wee bugger. So he just grabs him and twists his ear and says, what happens to you when you don't do what you're told? And he's like, laps, laps, laps. And he says, okay, do 5 laps then. And off he sends him. And I was like, oh, come on. I mean, I thought I was old school, but that's outrageous. This day and age, is it not?
Sounds like Fozzie could do with that kind of tactic.
Yeah. Craig says, no way I qualify for the under-13s. Oh, tee-hee. I am the authority figure that nobody listens to. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm grand. Apart from that, all good. I could bore you with other details about my life, but that's not really why we're here. Why we're here. Why are we here, Eddie? We're here for this. Reasons to be hopeful is what I've entitled it, you know. Now, I was looking back at the recent thumbnails, and they're increasingly negative, as am I, as have I been, about Celtic and their chances this season. Obviously, that's the key moment in the game. There's 2 players there highlighted, which is of note, because if they're going to decide to start putting in performances, then there could well be reasons to be hopeful if Hatate comes back. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Like, I've been so negative about Celtic, and you know what, the comeback where Araujo scored the winning goal, Stephen, and shame on me. I went to bed at half-time, couldn't be arsed. I was so angry and annoyed. Just went to bed and missed that amazing comeback. And then for my penance, I stayed up to watch the first the European game against Stuttgart, which was not great in the middle of the night watching that. And then last night, 2-0 down. Guess what I did at halftime?
You didn't.
Walk the dogs.
Did you?
Walk the dogs. Did it again.
Come on, Gav. Come on now.
You got to stick with it, Gav. You got to stick with it.
That's bad crack, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's poor behaviour, Gav. That is,
I was just so
especially
annoyed.
since you knew. Especially since you knew it didn't happen before, so you know it could easily. I mean, 2-0's we know we've lost 2 goal leads before, so 2-0's it's a funny score. If you get a goal, and that was always the case in the game. If we'd got a goal, I was hoping we were going to nick something just before half time, but we didn't. And it's once you go 2-1, it's an entirely different game. The game just flipped on its head with that one incident. So shame on you, Gav. Call yourself a Celtic podcast.
I was waving the white flag for the season. There's no doubt about it. I was done and dusted.
Maybe you have to keep doing it now, Gav, because if you stay up the next one with 2-0 down,
perversely, that was part of my thinking, Eddie. Was like our only chance of a comeback is if I don't watch the second half. Like I'm going to affect it from far away Malaysian jungle. Anyway, what can you do? All right. Well, shall we have a look at the game then? I have seen the whole game. Watched the whole of the second half this morning, and then saved the highlights. So let's go through the game. Starting lineup. This was interesting. I mean, the big news, of course, Stephen, was Sinisalo starting. I was really surprised at that. Were you?
Yeah, I was. I didn't think he would make that call, and it's a big call. If it came a cropper in the game, if Sinisalo had a nightmare, then he'd have been absolutely hung out to dry for it. But my overriding emotion when I saw the game when I saw the lineup was disappointment, because it looked as if it was much of a muchness from the last game. Apart from the keeper position, but I didn't see how that midfield was going to work against them, and especially at that venue where it's all about legs, it's all about aggression, it's all about physicality, especially in the early part of the game, and I could only see us getting dominated, as proved to be the case from almost the first whistle. So I was disappointed. I was hoping he was going to find a way to get Sirachi and Tierney into the team at the same time, just to give us that extra physicality. Whether that means going in some sort of 3-5-2 formation and just trying something a little bit different, because it seems as if over the past few weeks we've been just trying to do the same thing again and again and again, and it hasn't really been working. But fortunately, he made tweaks in the game, and it looked a lot better. But yeah, I was disappointed when I saw the lineup.
Were you disappointed, Eddie? Apart from the Sinisalo decision, I mean, Adamu, Maeda, and Yang as the front three, was that what you would have gone with?
No, I was surprised. I must admit, I think I put on the chat literally a few seconds before the team was announced and said, I'd like to see Sinisalo, but I didn't think they would do it. Mm-hmm. And literally a couple of seconds later, the team came up. I thought it was strange that he put Murray in. I thought he might have gone with the big guy Arthur, simply because of the kind of high level mistakes Murray's made, albeit that I thought he recovered really well yesterday. And I certainly was surprised that Adamu was up front. I thought he would have stuck with Chavanchara. And I agree with Stephen that, and I think a lot of people were looking at that midfield and thinking, well, where's the? We're very slow and we're very, very predictable. And in that midfield, there just didn't seem to be anything that was going to put a fire in amongst that midfield. I mean, Oxlade-Chamberlain, to be honest, I had one look at him at the start of the game before we kicked off, and there was one sort of picture of him, and he really didn't look up for it. I know just body language is a difficult thing to read, but he just didn't look up for it, Oxlade-Chamberlain, for some reason. Now, surely it couldn't have been the atmosphere because of the experience he's had. But I would have gone with him, but it was an odd lineup, very odd lineup.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we've got very little dig in the side, even on the bench or whatever. So, as Mahesh says here, Rangers are a big side. Chavanchara and Arthur might have been a better way to try and combat that physicality.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I get all these calls for Arthur to start the games. I understand he's a bright new shiny thing that we've just signed in the transfer window on loan, and he's came from English Premier League where nothing bad ever comes from, which we know isn't true. But we haven't seen him almost at all. I think he had a few minutes off the bench against Hibs, and apart from that, we haven't seen enough of him to say that he would have been okay at Ibrox. Many a player a lot more experienced than him has came a cropper at Ibrox, including, as Eddie was saying there, Oxlade-Chamberlain, who just looked as if he shat his pants, to be honest with you. I think it'd have been too much to throw Arthur straight into that environment, just a young player. I think I said in the group chat during the week that I expected Murray to get the nod, and that's the way it turned out. And he did, apart from having his standard blunder, which led to a goal. I thought he had a really good game, Dane Murray, and that was off the back of a really good game away in Stuttgart. So it's an interesting one, what you do now. Trustees available for not for the Aberdeen game, but he'll be available for the cup tie next week, and it'll be an interesting call for O'Neill and the management team to make, whether he comes straight back in or not.
I suspect he will. But anyway, let's get on with this game, shall we? And run through some of the incidents of note. Here we are in the first half, an early chance, which this is like the offside shot. You can see the player there's offside. But Sinisalo nicely positioned for this. Don't know if we want to comment. Anyone want to comment on that, or should we just move it on? Would Schmeichel have done anything less than Sinisalo here? If you think so, speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay.
Nah, I don't think so. I think Schmeichel would have been all right with that as well. It was I think the guy kind of took it over his shoulder a little bit from the offside position, so it was kind of straight at the keeper. But you're right, he was positioned well.
Right, here was a very frustrating sequence of events here, which leads to their first goal. So this is McGregor winning possession on about the 7th minute in this area of the pitch here. And then he turns to go back and ends up in the corner. Him and Araujo, they contrive to lose possession here. And then Rangers seem to just pass the ball at will without anyone interfering with them from one player to the next. And eventually work it out here. And then this guy managed to get the cross in despite two players being on him. Still gets the cross in. And it's a fantastic overhead kick, you have to say. I mean, great finish. They were loving it.
I think there's a couple of frames before that, Gav, before Calmac and Araujo mess it up in that corner. But that led from a daft free kick that Araujo gave away in the halfway line when he just barged into Moore for no real reason. He just hammered into him. And that free kick then subsequently ended up in that corner. So, I mean, you can go further back and say, we do that quite often. We give away daft free kicks and then we suffer the consequences of it. We just got to be more careful with that. I think Araujo was his head was a wee bit gone, but he was a wee bit too forceful with Moore.
He was loving it, wasn't he? He was, yeah. But there were so many opportunities for somebody to stick a leg in, Stephen.
Yeah, there's just a time. See the amount of goals you see in modern day football getting lost from situations like that, where teams just seem to be absolutely adamant that they have to pass it out from the back. And in a situation like that, it's just madness. There's nothing wrong with just lacing it. I mean, especially since you've got Adamu up front, who's there for a physical presence. He's there as a centre forward to take the ball in and get the play up the park. So if you do it long, there's always a chance you're going to retain possession. And I don't understand why we got ourselves into that situation. They've got to be prepared just to shell it when needs be. But yeah, you've got to take your hat off to the finish. It was a great finish. But as you point out, Gavi should never have got the cross in. I think it was Skov Olsen that put the cross in, and there was two defenders out there. They should have been able to stop that coming into the box.
Yeah, I don't know who you had on commentary or if you were watching it on Celtic TV, but Peter Grant was saying McGregor in that very first still, he should have just turned and hoofed it at this stage. You don't fanny around that part of the pitch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right. Not in the
he didn't use the term fanny around as you might have, Stephen, but words
but not in the first 10-15 minutes of a derby match at Ibrox. They're going to come out they've got the sectarianism is built around the stadiumism. They've got, raw, naked hatred belching out their ears, and they're right up for it. You've got to nullify that. You've got to take and absorb that for the first 15, 20 minutes of the game. And you do that by not doing things like that. Do you know what I mean? You don't invite pressure. You're going to get enough pressure in the first 20 minutes of a game at Ibrox without inviting it onto yourself. And absolutely correct. I think the two of them can share the culpability between them, McGregor and Araujo. Both of them had opportunities just to do it down the line. And both of them decided to try and mess around with it. So we got exactly what we deserved at that point.
And I asked about commentary there. Who was on comms for you two?
Well, I was watching it on. I got the Sky Sports. I picked up the Sky Sports feed from home, so it was Ian, the Fat Hun Crocker, and in co-coms it was Chris Sutton and Scott, the Slim Hun Arfield. So it was a whiff of furry in the air.
I was stuck with Celtic TV, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. But I tend to put the volume down quite a bit on it, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, two things I noted about that. On Celtic TV, somebody has obviously told your man, what's his name, the cheesy fella who interviews people?
McCulloch, Jerry
McCulloch. Someone's obviously said to him, listen, it's to neck tea.
Oh, yeah.
Not to net key. Because he really enunciated it the first time and then went straight back to his old ways for the rest of the game, which had me tearing my metaphorical hair out. And then Crocker, did you hear Crocker's voice at the overhead kick, Stephen?
Yeah, almost. I mean,
his voice like gave a wobble of excitement. He was like,
you could almost imagine him. Yeah, you could almost imagine him dropping the microphone and with excitement. And just doing a lap of the commentary gantry. He was so excited. It made me really annoyed. And he's one of these guys, Ian Crocker, if you follow him on Twitter, he always makes out as if he, some people say he's a Tim, some people say he's a Hun. But I've only ever heard people saying he's a Hun. And you could tell, but by the end of the game, it was almost like a funeral scene. So he was so depressed when he scored the penalty. It was brutal though. So I think we can file him under confirmed Hun.
I wasn't sure what he looked like, to be honest, until I had a research and found him. And he's that elegant man on the right as we look. That's him.
Yeah.
With two of
his
neutral there, just hanging out with a couple of guys.
Yeah, he certainly looks like a Hun, that's for sure.
I mean, he's one of these rare guys who can wear tux and still look scruffy as hell.
Yeah,
like, dirty and smelly. I don't know how he gets away with that.
Definitely a Hun then.
Anyway, yes, Ian Crocker. Ian, anyone but Celtic Crocker. I don't think I can put Franny's comment up with a clear conscience. Oh, I've done it by accident. Better take that off. All right. So carrying on then, 25 minutes. This is the Murray moment that Stephen mentioned. Now, death, taxes, and Dan Murray having a wobble, Eddie.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, if you watch it back, he unfortunately, for some reason, literally before the ball's kicked, he turns to his left and looks over his left shoulder. And I don't know whether he's thinking, is there anybody behind me? And by the time then he looks back, that's how he's ended up missing it and scarfing it because the ball's on its way to him. So if he hadn't taken that quick look behind him, he may have been okay with that one. But as you say, it's like the standard one cock up, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, nobody can handle more than that. So here's the sequence of events after that. It's like an agonizing slow motion hellscape as the ball kind of bobbles and wobbles. And Araujo has a chance, surely, to get rid, but great centre forward play again by Chermiti, who at this stage is looking like an absolute world beater. And then he slides it past the keeper, who's doing his best to make himself big. But, I don't know if it's us or if it's just in the big games, but he looks like, a Didier Drogba in his prime or something. in some of these games, and then an absolute donkey in others. It's very odd. But Stephen, well, talk me through that goal and where you apportion blame. What could have been done differently?
Well, I think 90% of the blame goes to Dane Murray. It's just a pretty standard dink into the box, and it should have been just a pretty standard hoof up the park or hoof out for a throw in, or just lace it anywhere you can. But as Eddie said, he's just took his eye off the ball, and he's fresh aired it. And unfortunately for the big man, there's just no way you can do that at this level, and you're going to get punished for it. And he was. I think Arujo was a little bit unlucky in that it bounced. The ball took a big bounce right over his head, and he's not a big guy. If he was a few inches taller, he'd probably been able to get a head on it. But he wasn't able to, and it dropped really nicely for Chimite. It couldn't have dropped more nicely to him, but he showed a lovely bit of composure to lift it over Arujo and then poke it past the goalkeeper. So he's, I mean, they paid close to £10 million for him, and that's why, he is a good player with a half decent pedigree. Where we're faffing around, scraping around the loan bar, the loan basket at the end of the window, and looking at out of contract guys like Iniacho that hasn't been fit for 3 years. They've just gone and said, okay, here's 10 million for a striker. And yeah, he took a while to settle, but it looks as if he's going to score a right few goals for him in important matches. And so, there's a lesson there for us as a club. And it's just that you can't mess around when it comes to signing a striker. You've got to spend real money on it because they don't come cheap. And even, as the comment says there, he's not a brilliant player, but he's competent, and he's good enough to score goals in this league.
Yeah, these arguments that we have of like who would get into our side. In the old days, it was like not a single Rangers player would get into our team. Well, there's one that would absolutely stroll into our team. He's a more dangerous looking striker than anything we can muster. Hey, Eddie?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, with that goal, I mean, Arujo, I think what Peter Grant was saying, I think that's probably a good point that he made. He does make many, but he was saying you've got to anticipate that one of your teammates is going to make a mistake. Well, that's fine, but I mean, Arujo, I think for one, yeah, exactly. I think it was harsh. I thought it was harsh on him. But yeah, there was a couple of players for them that play. I mean, Mikey Moore had the freedom of the park yesterday. I don't understand why nobody shut him down. And I was trying to look on the second half to see what the difference was, and I couldn't quite figure out whether he just seemed to disappear in the second half. I don't know whether that was because of the presence of Hatate somewhere. But yeah,
well, they played with two up front in the first half, so they got a lot of joy from that. And then when they brought in Diamandi, in the second half they took off the other striker and left Chimite on. He was up front on his own after that, and to be honest, he looked pretty shite after that. Yeah. And he never kicked a ball in the second half. So I can see
the manager's getting a lot of abuse for that tactical change.
Yeah. I think he fucked the game for them, to be honest with you. And it gave us back control of the midfield. And when the ball started bouncing off him, he started miscontrolling it. And credit to Dane Murray. Dane Murray, it was a couple of times in the second half, he just came right through the back of him and won a header comprehensively. And I think when that happened, I think he just didn't fancy it anymore. He knew there was physicality in the game. He was up front himself, and he fell right out of it. So he has got limitations as a striker, but he'd already got 2 goals in the bag for him by that point. So that's right. I agree with you. He would walk into the other side. I'm struggling probably to find any of their other players who would walk in as easily as he would. Mikey Moore's good and fits the starts, but I still think he's too inconsistent. But Chimite's probably the only one that you would say would walk into our team.
Okay, well, there's probably a few debates, I'd say, throughout the two sides there. What old school suite did that incident remind me of? The incident we've just talked about. It's a combination of an old school suite and this one Scottish expression for people being rubbish.
No
You
idea.
got it. Murray Mints.
Murray
That's
Mints.
what some people will be saying after that sclaff. I'm
I
here to
thought
amuse
you
myself,
recovered
all right?
really well,
As
to
long
be
as
honest.
I'm happy.
I thought you had a good game after that, to be fair. Especially second half.
All right. Shouldn't have done it under any circumstances. All right, here we go. 55 minutes now, second half. So this is a good period of pressure here, and Tonekti has a shot, which sort of comes off a defender and pings around a bit. And then eventually the ball comes out to Hatate here. And this had shades of their goal against us, you know. We're putting them under pressure and sort of knocking the ball cleanly around to each other. And comes to McGregor, who lays it off really nicely to Negrin, who takes a touch with his right foot, and then with his left foot, calm as you like, just dinks a little ball up to the back stick. And a beautiful header from KT. Lovely goal to get back into it, wasn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, great goal. Really well worked. It started off as a corner to us out on the far side, and that's why Tierney was still up the pitch. He obviously, he was on the right hand side of the attack there, and it wasn't his natural position to be in, but he was just hanging around there after having taken the corner. But it was excellent play all round. I think Hatate did really well to find McGregor in the box with a really pass that was fizzed into his feet. McGregor's done really well to leave it off to Negrin. And Negrin's done excellently. I thought Negrin had an outstanding second half, and he showed great awareness there. He didn't get into the back post from the position he was in. I was screaming at him to have a shot, but he's obviously noticed we had overloaded him at the back stick, and the little fucking hobbit Raskin was tasked with marking KT and was just nowhere to be seen. Just missed his assignment completely, and it was a great header from Tierney, back down, right into the ground and across the goalkeeper. So excellent goal all round.
It didn't quite go into the corner. It wasn't placed massively beyond the reach of the keeper, but down and hard and back where it came from, Eddie. That's what you were always taught as a young fella.
Yeah, and it was a real powerful header as well. Just you could just see the power he put into that header. Yeah, and I agree with Stephen. That ball from Hatate into McGregor was really crisp, really sharp, really accurate, really well done. And again, the wee chip up from Negrin, and I couldn't have been happier that it was Raskin that was behind him. It was really lovely to see that it was him that was at fault, and he was the first one to moan at everybody. It's hilarious. More of that, please.
Well, earlier you said Peter Grant doesn't make many good points, but Peter Grant was really getting tore into him, saying, he's a sneaky wee fella. He'll come up behind you. That's the problem. He doesn't come up to your face.
Yeah,
all this kind of talk.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it later. But I mean, they know exactly what he's up to. You just got to look at them protecting that penalty spot. But I'm sure we'll talk about that as well.
Yeah. Let's take a wee pause to bid a warm hello to Monty, who's back in the house. Everyone, say hello to Monty. Monty's been MIA a little bit. We hope you're well.
Hello, Monty. Nice to have you back.
Hope things are going well,
Monty. Hello to Monty in the chat.
How good is
the Celtic World team? Go ahead, Stephen.
How good is Kieran Tierney? Just take a second, can we, to just appreciate how good Kieran Tierney's been for us over the past, number of weeks. Yeah. And I shudder how to think where we'd be without him. There's a lot of people doubted bringing him back, whether he'd be physically robust enough. And even this was another one with even Ian Crocker that really got under my skin. As Tierney was being substituted for Sinachi, he says, very seldom you see Kieran Tierney completing 90 minutes these days. As if there's some sort of physicality issue with him. And he's completed 90 minutes loads of times this season, multiple games in a row in Europe and in Scotland. So utter pish he was talking. And I think Tierney's just been absolutely magnificent for us, a real leader on the park. And it's been a really great move from him, and a really sort of average season. It's been a real highlight.
Yeah, you can hardly think of anyone else who's been so consistently good throughout the entire season. He's been fantastic.
Yeah. I like
he's a stick on for.
Sorry,
he's a stick on for Player of the Year for me. To be honest, at this point, I don't see anyone else. Even maybe Benji Negrin, maybe, but I think Kieran Tierney should be should be out on his own for me for Player of the Year. Sorry, Eddie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it was another Peter Grant one where he at the 60th minute Tierney went to take, I think it was a corner or a throw in, and he very deliberately pulled one of his socks down. And when he was substituted 10 minutes later, and this is what Peter Grant was saying. Well, he's already signalled by that with the taking the sock down. That's a signal to the bench that I need to come off. Mm-hmm. But it was 10 minutes later before he was subbed. You know, I was like, well, it's another one from Peter. You know, here's a signal. I'll just pull my sock down and then you take me off. Odd.
Well, as Mahesh likes to point out, Peter Grant makes very good tactical points when you're watching a game, and I thought he was a bit of a figure of fun until Mahesh made that point, and I've been listening to him since. And it's true, he does sometimes say some very tactically astute things. And like he's ahead of the game, you know. He says them before, and then once he says them and you're watching the game, you think, oh, right enough. So, yeah, I'm all for Peter Grant. All right, and then Jamesy comes on. And one thing, actually, having just said that, which Grant wasn't happy about, was Negrin being subbed off and Jamesy coming on. Why is he doing that? Said Peter Grant. But then, of course, Jamesy goes and does what he does, beats his man, gets to the byline, sticks a cross in. What happens next, Eddie?
Well, it's a great leap, isn't it, with Maeda? We don't see it often enough these days, but it's a really good leap and a really good header. And I have to be honest, I'm sure there's lots of us didn't see that handball at all. I just thought it was a save from Butland.
Absolutely.
But I guess you've got to sit and think, well, okay, we often criticise VAR, and we do a lot actually. But at least somebody in VAR saw it and actually brought it to his attention. We don't often sort of praise it, but at least this time it was right, and it worked for us. But
yeah, that's what VAR is for. That's VAR doing its job properly. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And especially it's letter of the law stuff. It's this letter of the law that's how they were explaining it. Really good.
And do you agree, Eddie, that John Beaton just kept looking at it, thinking, "Oh Jesus, I'm going to have to give this."
You could just see the look in his face when he was told to go, and he had his head in his hands. I think he was actually playing with his hair. And I thought, I don't think you're playing with your hair. You're just holding your head, thinking, "Oh no, what have I got to do here?" And honestly, I mean, I think probably every commentary said the same. They wondered why it was taking so long. I mean, I heard Chris Sutton, and he's saying, "Well, what is he looking at? Why are we continually to look this 3 or 4 times? It's very, very clear." But I think he was just desperately trying to find some way of saying, "Nah, it's not." But it was undeniable.
Arguments about proximity or something, or it hit something else before it hit his hand, or no. But whenever it was made clear that the ball was going in, as Franny says, that header was going under Butland's dive. The fact that his arm got in the way, redirected the ball into Butland's face, then it's like, it's a stone waller. Steve?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ian Crocker again on commentary. I know I'm going on about this a bit, but he got right under my skin. He was trying to make out as if there was some debate about it, and that perhaps John Beaton was arguing with Stephen McLean, who was on VAR. But it was just as you were saying there, it was such an obvious penalty. It shouldn't have taken him as long to reach that decision. But he did look really miserable when he was watching the replays. I don't know if we'll talk about some tweets later on, but the tweet of the day was the one where it said, it looked as if he was watching the Queen's funeral on that TV.
Rest in peace, ma'am.
Yeah, it's actually a very good point. It's a very good point that Will makes there. That nobody appealed for it. I mean, I think we even complained because we took the throw in very, very quickly, and then when the referee Beaton blew up, we were complaining to him and saying, "Well, what have you stopped the game for?" Because nobody really saw it. It must have happened so fast. So
yeah,
again,
it happened so
at
fast.
least somebody in VAR
But that's
saw.
why technology was able to pick up something that, in the heat of the moment, the human eye didn't, and it would have
I
been
think it's
a lack of an injustice had it not been awarded. So that's VAR for you. That's exactly what it's supposed to do.
yeah, I think it's a clear. What they call it a clear and obvious error, which it was, and that's what VAR's there for. It's not there to re-referee games. It's there to point out when the referees missed something, and that was exactly what happened.
No one appealed because it was bleeding obvious, says Mahesh. No, quite the opposite. No one appealed because it wasn't bleeding obvious. It's only bleeding obvious to us when we saw the third replay. And you're like, oh yeah, oh happy days. Oh Jesus, it's a penalty. Who'd have thunk? All right. So then the penalty, up steps Reo Hatate, Stephen. And Reasons to be Hopeful reminds you of the song Reasons to be Cheerful, doesn't it? Who sang Reasons to be Cheerful? It was, what's his name?
It Ian Jury? Ian Jury and the Blockheads, was it?
Blockheads, yes. Reasons to be Cheerful, 1, 2, 3. So here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So hit me with your rhythm stick, Stephen. Talk me through that one.
Hit me slowly, hit me quick. Yeah, it was in the cold light of day. Looking back on it now, when we all know everything ended up all right in the end. It was almost too good to be true, wasn't it? The way we scored that goal, it was such a terrible penalty. And when I saw Hatate stepping up for it, I feared that he was going to take a really brutally bad penalty, because he doesn't really take a good penalty. He's had problems in the past from the spot. And when we got awarded the penalty, you're looking around the team saying, who the hell's going to take this? And I thought McGregor would take it himself. Just take the captain's responsibility and stick it away. But Smell the Glove agrees with me. But it's a terrible penalty. You can see there, Butland's almost dived past it. It was so poorly placed. And when when all said and done, it's a pretty poor piece of goalkeeping by Butland, because he's got such a good play at that ball. He should have been looking to turn that round the post or away from the goal, but he's popped it right back into the centre of the goal, right in Hatate's path, and he's able to, fair play, he's able to get a save on the second attempt, but again he's put it straight back into the middle of the goal, and we bundled it home. And really nice to see that it was 2 Celtic players, possibly 3, if you include, I think it's McCowan there, who are leading the charge, and it was any one of the 2 of them that could have knocked it in. So all's well that it ends well. Just to see their wee faces behind the goal when they thought that Butland had saved it, only to be brutally handed a lesson in life when we bundled home the rebound. It was worth it. It was worth it in the end, and great fun.
Eddie, you were so excited by the penalty, you disappeared momentarily from our screens.
Yeah, apologies. I don't know why that just dropped off for a second or two.
Yeah, so Hatate did have a good game as well, overall, which is the first time we've been saying that for absolutely ages. So for him to get a goal, hopefully that'll do his confidence a bit of good, Eddie, because we could certainly use him going forward, couldn't we? He'd give the fans something to cheer about.
Yeah, we certainly could. We could do with a Hatate of old. But yeah, he changed. Well, not him on his own, but the game did change after half-time, after the first 5 or 10 minutes of that second half. Don't know what was said. According to the reports, Martinoneill didn't say anything spectacular at half-time. He just told them that they were still in the game. Now, whether or not we know that's true or not, we don't know. But something definitely changed, and the 2 substitutions obviously made a big difference. But the other thing I love to see, as Stephen mentioned, was the way we were following in that penalty ahead of anybody else. And the other thing was, with both goals, as soon as the ball was in the back of the net, we were picking that ball back up and we were hurtling back to the halfway line, as if we really, really did believe that we could get that third one. So that was really, really, and that was everybody to a man, apart from Reo, who was sort of glory hunting with patting the badge to the Celtic fans. But I like that as well, that eagerness. But yeah, Hatate of old would be good to get him back, and then have a wee chat with Maeda and see if he could do the same with him.
Yeah, well, the two guys featured in the thumbnail, if we can get those two, back, get a tune out of them for the remaining games of the season, I mean, what a difference that would make. Hatate hater gonna hate. Well, Stephen, you can't really blame people for thinking that Hatate's not much use this season, or hasn't been to this point. Hey?
Well, I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but I had said at half time I thought it was a bad substitution because we'd lost the midfield in the first half, and I just couldn't see how Hatate was going to make any difference in the second half. He's been so ineffective in there. Every time he's played this season, he's had very few games where he's played to his level of ability we all know he's capable of. But he did make a difference, and I think it was just. I mean, I'm not an expert on formations or anything, but I just think he was just accurate with his passing. His first touch was good. He took the ball in, and he found the Celtic player with every pass. And I think it was as simple as that. It was what was missing for the first half. I know Adamu's been getting all sorts of pelters today for having a terrible first half, and he wasn't very good. But I do have a bit of sympathy for him because all the service up to him was either, just a yard to the side of him, or a little bit too high, or chest height passes. There was nothing into feet. There was nothing that he could work with, and he really struggled. But when Hatate came on the field, he was really accurate with his passing, and he seemed to find little pockets of space, which opened up the game for us. So if he can play like that, if you can get Hatate playing like that every week, then I don't think it's an exaggeration to see how we win the league. I think it's as simple as that, because midfield's the big problem area for us, and if Hatate solves that problem in there, the midfield picks itself, and we become a much better team for it. But I'm not sure. We need to wait and see. It's far too early to say whether it's going to be like a permanent regain of form from Hatate or just a flash in the pan.
Well, as Mahesh rightly points out, he was good under O'Neill in O'Neill's first stint. He did have a little purple patch, which I think stood out because he hadn't had that. But just before we move on, yeah, Stephen, you said at halftime in our group chat, you mentioned that you questioned the wisdom of the Hatate substitution, but you don't think I would have saved that just to show it on the show, do you? To show how very typically Stephen it was. There you go. There's our cunning.
Why have you got me saved as Stephen CDU?
Oh, I don't know. That's what I must have saved you as originally.
You got to change that, mate. Yeah, you need to get that changed. Oh, look, I don't mind. You put your opinion out there. I'm a big, passionate Celtic fan, and I get emotional during the game, and sometimes I'll say things which I regret later. And that was obviously one of them. And I still think it was a bit of a Hail Mary from O'Neill, considering how Hatate's been playing this season. And I'm not going to say I'm not having it that it was a piece of tactical genius from Martinoneill, but it worked out for him, and you've got to give him credit for it.
Yeah, I think Hatate coming on sort of changed McGregor's game as well. Whatever he was doing, it just sort of gave McGregor a bit more space and a bit more freedom. Because McGregor was running around like his head was on fire the first half with Oxlade, Chamberlain and Negrin there. And I think, you're right, I think Hatate just seemed to calm it down a bit and give that bit of time, give McGregor that bit of time. That's the change I think he made.
Now, letting people a little peek into the Celtic World WhatsApp group, this also came up. Who wants to talk us through this pick?
Well, that's a famous what?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's Lisbon Line, Willie Wallace, who's a resident of Australia. I think he lives up in the Gold Coast. if I'm not mistaken, and he must have been down in Perth where Paul and Anthony, our resident tactical experts, obviously ran into him down at the Perth CSC.
Fantastic, eh?
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Apparently, he came up to them and said, "Are you Paul and Anthony from a Celtic World? Can I get a photograph?" Oh, that's not what I wanted to show. Sorry about that. There's another pic there. Oh yeah, just wanted to show him the man in his prime. Time flies, eh, gents?
Yeah.
It sure does.
Yeah. Willie Wallace, indeed. Smell the glove. Right. So before we just move on, let's have a quick message from our sponsor. Just a quick 30-second one to say hello.
Every life is full of stories, and we all know someone whose story should be preserved. That's what an audio memoir is, a record of you or your loved one's life stories, family anecdotes, and poignant memories. We will talk online and then edit the recordings into episodes, accompanied by family photos and contemporaneous images of the past, creating an enduring audio-visual experience. We all know someone who deserves an audio memoir.
Right, well, we'll just get in touch and mention the word Celtic if you want 10% off. If you know somebody who deserves an audio memoir, we'll be happy to oblige. That's why we keep the show free of annoying YouTube ads, and we don't charge for any content. Anyway, all right. So got a few social media things to run through. First of all, we'll talk about two things about Scales here in this one. Let me get your feedback on this. Another clear penalty missed, says Lint. Scales has got away from the Rangers player, who then wraps his arms around him and wrestles him to the ground. That wasn't called. And also, I see lots of people in the chat talking about, people are blaming Scales, for the 2-0 scoreline as it was then. I think, as we touched on, Stephen, he was a bit at fault for stopping the cross coming in for the first goal. Don't think he did much else wrong apart from that. Do you?
Well, I'm not his biggest fan, Gav, but I thought he did a really good game, to be honest with you. And as he does when he plays Rangers, he's usually pretty good because he's the one player in our team that does bring a bit of physicality, and he does love that type of game. So I thought he was fine. I wouldn't have pinned the blame on him for any of the goals we lost, and I think he was one of our star performers in the second half. He even looked quite composed coming out of defence with the ball a couple of times to play some nice passes, especially to Nick his feet. So it was. I thought he was fine. I thought he had a good game, and I don't see really much to complain about.
No, I got to agree with that. I had him down as my third. I think I had Negrin and Tati and then him. I thought they were. I didn't think Scales had a bad game at all.
Okay, John Suter lucky to stay on the pitch, Eddie. Here's a tweet. John Suter should never have seen the conclusion of this game. First half jumps into Adamu with his knee up, grabs and pulls down Hatate, who spins and gets past him. Second half takes down Tonekti. But John Beaton was the concern for Rangers today. Your thoughts? Yeah,
I must admit I didn't notice the first couple that were mentioned there. Obviously, his one Tonekti was, had that been another sort of 5 or 10 yards further on, that might have been a straight red anyway. But I've got to be honest, I've watched the game. I rewatched it again this morning. I didn't really notice it. Maybe I just missed it. But yeah. I didn't notice it.
Let's hand it over to Stephen's spleen, which I'm sure is at bursting point.
Yeah, I think I made that point. I don't know if you're gonna bring up the chat again, Gav.
No more. It's private. What happens in chat stays in chat.
So I think I made the point. I don't think it was Hatate though, because it was in the first half, and it wasn't long after McGregor was booked for a trip on Mikey Moore. and he just, I think it was Yang, who just spun away from him, and he just grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back. Deliberate, cynical foul, and a clear yellow card offence, which he didn't get. And then he goes into later on in the game, he goes through Adamu with a really bad challenge, and then in the second half, I think it was Tunekti that he took down with a cynical trip, and I think that was with 10 minutes to go in the game, and he finally got a yellow for that. So yeah, I completely agree with that tweet there. He should never have seen the conclusion of the game. It should have been 2 yellows long before that.
Okay, well, one thing that was very clear and very striking was the fabulous tifo that was unfurled. It took forever for it to unfurl, didn't it? It was like trying to get the turnips out of your wet jeans or something. It just wouldn't come down that side. People must have been screaming, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Anyway, but it did finally come down, and of course, it was. What the fuck is it exactly?
I said in the chat, I have no idea what that was about. Absolutely no idea what it was about.
It says all you see is crime in the city along the bottom here, and it seems to be like a train. There's a train there? Look, going over a track over the river. I mean, it's just far too complicated. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's outrageous, isn't it? You've got to keep these things simple.
Yeah.
If you want them to be effective.
And then they've got guys. They've got it was actually a formative one. They've got guys dressed in overalls painting live.
Yes.
And that's just bizarre. It's bizarre behaviour. I mean, it's really bizarre that the way they treat their ultras compared to the way we treat ours. Ours aren't even allowed into the game, and they're coming away with all this fucking nonsense. I mean, who's got any clue what it was meant to be about? I think it just looks like a collage of Rangers pish, and I don't really know what the sort of meaning or if there is an underlying meaning to it, and it was just far too elaborate to have any real meaning. So another failure from the Onion Bears, but it seems as if they've got carte blanche to do what they want inside Ibrox now. It seems as if the sectarian racist singing's all back with aplomb. Some overtly racist banners are being flown round the ground, and nobody wants to do anything about it. So they're running amok again, as they have at various times over their history. And there needs to be, or there should be, someone doing something about it, because some of the songs and some of the banners that were photographed and played round about the stadium in the game are just an embarrassment to Scotland, and an embarrassment to them, and it's been beamed out all around the world. Absolutely disgraceful.
All around the world, and it is a Celtic world, and we have viewers from all over, and we're being joined tonight, I see, by a German friend saying, "Well done, Celtic boys." And then he also makes another comment here. The banner they had with SS on it insults my country. Well, the banner they had here insults my country. May the Christian Lord guide my hand against your Roman popery, they say. Rangers on tour. And of course, that's a banner featuring Daniel Day-Lewis, the Irish citizen and resident of County Wicklow. So that's quite funny.
And not a nicer man you could meet, by the way, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Have you met him?
I met him, yeah, and a lovely sort of time with that guy. He was a lovely, lovely man to talk to. Really was. Had a few drinks with him.
What were the circumstances of you meeting him? Did you commission some Italian
shoes? By pure accident. I was on holiday on my own in a bar in Zante at the time, and I used to get in every night into the same bar, the same stool, because it was kind of quiet sort of part of the season. And then one night I went into this same little bar, and there was a guy sitting on my stool, So I sat right next to him, even though the bar was empty, and it was Daniel Day-Lewis. I didn't, to be honest, I didn't recognise him. It was the girl behind the bar asked me about him at the end, and I didn't really recognise him, but he was in there on his own, just having a break.
Had you been chatting to him?
Yeah, but I sat with him for about 2 hours, just sat there with 2 or 3 beers, chatting away.
Without knowing who he was?
No idea who he was. Just a general chat about Zante and about holidays, about stuff that was going on every day. Brilliant. And there's a funnier story to that, because a few years later, I was managing a cleaning contractor at one of the colleges down south, and one of the cleaners, I'd told a story about Daniel Day-Lewis, and one of the cleaners by sheer chance was cleaning his mum's house, and he had told his mum the story about meeting this daft Scottish guy in this bar in Zante. so it went full circle to the people I was with. But a lovely guy, really lovely guy, and it's a shame he's popped up on some filth from those guys.
Being co-opted. Yeah.
I mean, it's a blatantly sectarian banner. In a day, and I made this point earlier in one of our group chats, in an era when old women are getting arrested for walking around with pro-Palestine posters, these guys are getting away with that, and it's essentially a hate crime against Catholics. So why is that not being made a big deal of in the press? Why are there not people being arrested? The guys are all very, very clearly visible there who've got the banner, so these guys should be getting arrested. And getting back to some of the songs that have been sung, the Billy Boys was getting belted all round the stadium at various points in the game, as well as the one calling Martinoneill a sad Fenian bastard and all this. And that sort of thing. The Billy Boys, that was settled in court years ago that it's a racist song, a racist sectarian song. And Rangers at one time were threatened with stand closures if their fans didn't stop singing it, which they did for a while, stop singing it. But now it's just back again, and nobody seems prepared to do anything about it. It's just called, the commentators call it atmosphere. And Crocker was getting all carried away. I think he was joining in with his singing at one point. But it's something that really needs to be looked at again, because it's not a good look for the game in Scotland. And we all know what they are, but it's not good to see that beamed all around the world.
Yeah. And of course, one of his greatest roles was Jerry Conlon, wasn't it? Jerry and Giuseppe. Him swallow half of Africa. That was, and they were doing the drugs in prison. Brilliant film. Absolutely amazing. One of those films that stays with you. Whenever they were talking about, whenever they were sentencing the people, and they did this sort of montage of sentencing, and there was loud thudding noises, and I just remember that going through me when I watched it for the first time. It was really powerful. All right, what else are we going to talk about? I don't think we've time for this today. We're definitely going to cover it, the Willie Hawkey stuff. I've got a response here from Celtic Supporters Limited kind of saying, we welcome anything that gets a greater voice of fans involved in the ownership of the club, but they're going to continue doing their thing. But we'll sort of watch that with interest, and maybe we'll discuss it, maybe if it grows a bit of legs. But do we want a brief sort of surface level response to that announcement, Eddie? Yeah,
I saw Willie Hawkey on the programme when he announced it. And I was kind of in agreement. At first I thought, well, we're just talking about season ticket holders, but then he expanded it a little bit later and said, no, it's not just season ticket holders that he wants to get involved, although he's only going to count it season ticket holders on the 2 million per 10,000 or whatever it was. I found that post from the Celtic Supporters Limited a bit weird. It was almost... I didn't understand whether they were praising it or whether they were criticising it. It was kind of, I don't know, it was just vague. And that's a bit of an odd organisation as well. I mean, I watched them again. I think it was on Axom or something. And one of the guys, the guys who formed it, was on, and they were saying they were looking for some help, voluntary help, for anybody, just to do things like check their inboxes and stuff, because they were, and I've got a bit of time, and I contacted them. This was a couple of weeks ago. 3 times now I've contacted them, and no response, to say, look, I'm happy to do a wee bit for you, voluntarily. sort of answer emails or open it in the inboxes and stuff. So it's a bit of a weird setup. That I'm not sure what's going on with that Celtic Supporters Limited.
Stephen, your tuppence worth?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm just naturally cynical like Franny in the comments there, but I'm not. I'm a bit suspicious of Willie Hawkey. He's one of those guys who he's not much like Dermot Desmond. Really, he's not my favourite type of person. He done a podcast a few months ago along with Tom Farmer, the wealthy guy who used to own QuickFit. And they were bemoaning the fact that nobody understood how much tax is paid by rich people, and they were saying that all this talk that rich people should pay more tax is just a load of nonsense, and all that sort of thing. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm into this guy. And he's got the OBE, so he's done that sort of thing. He's took bread from the table. Down there with the old pedo family. So I'm just not too sure. And I was under the impression, I'm glad Eddie's put me right now, actually. I was under the impression it was just season ticket holders. And like Franny in the comments there, I was just wondering if it was a board attempt to shore up the season ticket sales. And if he has actually said, no, it's not just limited to season ticket holders, then I'm not sure if he's got the amount of money that he's going to need to pay for shares, given the amount of Celtic fans that are all around the world. I think he said it was going to be £10 million of shares he was going to be buying if 50,000 season ticket holders signed up for this. But what if 200,000 worldwide Celtic fans sign up for this? Guys like us, sitting in Australia, Thailand, and Malaysia, sign up for this. Is he going to then pay 40, 50 million for Celtic shares? I'm not sure.
Put a cap
so
on it,
I think the numbers he was talking about were specifically for season ticket holders, but then what he said after was that anybody else could then jump in. But I don't think he was gonna tally those numbers into the season ticket numbers.
Yeah,
I think it was purely based on the
he did say he was going to provide further detail on it in the coming weeks. So I'll wait and see. I'll give him a chance. But he has been on the board before, Willie Hawkey. He's not a stranger to the Celtic boardroom, so he knows how things work. He is clearly a Celtic fan, unlike the Desmonds. So we'll give him that. But I think I'll need to see a bit more to see if there's enough under the hood for me to get on board with this.
All right. Well, we'll watch this space and discuss it later when things pan out a bit more. All right, we've got to wrap the show up. It's just a few more little things to look at here. Saw this on Twitter. This is a picture, like a still, like with modern photography, you can take stills far more frequently, or maybe just pause a video, but you just capture these incredible moments. This is what happens when you get a ball full in the face. Don't know if you've seen this. This guy. Dear, oh dear. Gabriel Silva. He's an under-21 goalkeeper in Brazil. Stopped the ball with his face and the camera caught it perfectly. That is brutal. That's
it looks a bit like that's what John Suter looks like all the time.
That's a bad one. And then there's another one here, which the guy seems to have been sent back to early man by taking one on the front of the head. But is that a Cro-Magnon or something? Is that the term?
Yeah.
Look at that.
I mean, just to be serious for a minute, Chris Sutton, who was in Colcoms, is a big campaigner for former footballers who've were suffering with dementia from heading the ball. I think his father actually passed away, and that was the reason for the condition he was suffering. And then when you see pictures like that, if you're doing that 2 or 3 times in a game, even if you don't get it in the face, but you're headering the ball, So that's the sort of effect it's having on your skull. What must it be doing to your brain? So I think it is something the game's going to have to look at over the next few years. Otherwise, there's going to be a few losses. If you look at the NFL over in the US at the moment, they're being absolutely bombarded with lawsuits. It's a very litigious society over there, and they're getting bombarded with lawsuits from older guys who used to play NFL and are blaming their dementia conditions on contact to the head. So watch this space with that one.
Yeah, I don't let the kids head the ball if the goalkeeper boots it out, I try and stop the goalkeeper booting it out. I want him to roll it or pass it to the side.
Keep it on the deck, lads. Keep it on the deck.
I've stood under a few of those, go on, Macaulay, go on. You get pushed forward, the defender, you stick your head under it, and you just don't know where you are for 20 seconds afterwards. It's not nice. But here at the Celtic World, we're a lover of all sports, aren't we? And I thought we might appreciate this video. This is absolutely awesome. Look at this. This is a new world record of the pole vault. I mean, that is poetry in motion. Look how he clears it. It's worth a second glance, I'd say. New world record. Imagine doing that. Look how high up he's going on the end of a bendy stick. Are you kidding me?
Well, the question.
If you saw some.
The question I always ask is, who was the first man who found out they were good at that?
Exactly. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Incredibly.
Where did they get the bendy stick? What was the bendy stick? A bit of bamboo?
What were they doing?
I love the way you just reduced that, Gav. The bendy stick. That's just brilliant. These guys dedicate their lives to using a bendy stick.
And bringing it down to our level so we understand what he does. The height that they generate. They sprint with a big pole and then they bounce way up in the air. I mean, it is incredible. Don't you think? I'm totally impressed with that.
Now we wanted a bendy stick final.
None of us have ever done anything like that.
Nor will we.
They should rename it the bendy stick vault, not the pole vault. The bendy stick vault.
That's Craig getting into the bathroom window when the missus locks him out. Very good. All right. Well, look, we'll leave it on that little light-hearted moment. I was trying to be respectful to another sport, but failed miserably. All right. What's the next game coming up, Stephen?
Yeah, away up the road in the miles up to Aberdeen on Wednesday night. Massive game. It's almost impossible to overstate how big a game that is. And if we don't turn up, if we don't get 3 points there, then the second half performance yesterday is all for nothing. So massive game. And if we get the 3 points, then we're right back in the title race. So got a lot of things to look forward to now. And let's hope we can get the result up there.
Absolutely. And Thursday's show, Eddie, will follow on from that. So we'll be able to discuss what happened up there and are we right back in it? Imagine the positivity that'll be around when we look at the table and there's 3 extra points added to it. That'll be a different ballgame, right?
It will be, yeah, absolutely. We just got to, as Stephen says, we just got to go there and win that after. Otherwise, yesterday is just a non-entity. It was hardly worth it. To play the way we played in the second half, if we can get up and play even 60 or 70 minutes that way against Aberdeen, because the chances of playing 90 minutes like that seem to be impossible. But if we can play like that for 60 or 70, then we should beat them. And that would be great. That would absolutely be. Imagine the atmosphere in the Brunelin stand next weekend if that was the case. That will be absolutely jumping. Absolutely jumping. Be great.
That's what I'm talking about. Reasons to be hopeful. So let's cling to those. Come on, we can do this thing, silly. Okay, until Thursday, thanks very much, Stephen and Eddie and everyone in the chat. And we'll see you on the next one. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail, folks.